I had a picture with this kid today. I mean, it's been a year we've been dealing with him. Just never could put the retainers on. Just to, delayed appointment, doctor, delayed appointment. Can you put them on? Can you not? And he finally put them on. And so he's wearing for a month now straight. Fully corrected. Doing great. The keratoconus patients do appreciate it, and it's great. And they're usually adults, but man, those kids, man, that's tough. That's a tough one to beat. It's really a tough one to beat.
Hey there, it's Dr. Ryan Corte, and I'm looking for North Carolina licensed optometrists or those interested in becoming licensed in the state of North Carolina to join my team. If that's you or somebody you know, reach out to me on social media or email me at ryan.court1@gmail.com. Now, enjoy today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ryan Reflects. I have a good friend and colleague on today, Dr. Anith Pillai. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm really honored. I was really looking forward to this.
Yeah, we were shooting the breeze, and Anith has a newborn. I'm like, how in the world did your wife let you get away for a podcast with a newborn? And he's like, listen, man, it's all about juggling and time management. And I can't tell you how happy I'm to have you on, and you just setting aside some time to connect. But for those who don't know you, Anith, because you're a very public figure in our profession, you're involved in a lot of stuff, but give us some information or just a little bit of background information on you.
Yeah, man. By the way, we're really busy at home with the newborn. So I just want to say, and there was a lot of things I had to do to make sure my wife was okay with it. So if I, ever show up dead in the next week, I did not commit suicide. Okay. Let's just put that out there. Yeah, man. So I co-own 3 practices in Houston. It's called Evolution Eye Care. And, still wearing my scrubs. I just got back from work, so we work hard. And I think we play hard, hopefully, but not so much. We just enjoy what we do, I think, is the biggest thing. And our practice focuses on specialty eye care, specifically into specialty contact lenses, vision therapy, ortho-K, myopia control, and dry eye. And that was kind of the foundation of how we built the practice. Now, when we started, we had to do primary eye care, obviously, to kind of build the patient base and just pay the bills, to be quite honest. We still do some primary eye care, but it's a very small percentage of what we see clinically. So, like just today, I would say maybe 5% of my patients were primary eye care, and everything else was everything I just described. But that's how we wanted to build it, which is risky, because that's tough to start off in the beginning. And you have to number one, have a passion for it. And then number 2, you have to have a vision of how to build that practice too. And it starts with primary care converting, and then, we can get into this and how the referrals come and everything else.
Well, the fact that you have built a multi-location specialty clinic just speaks volumes. It's hard enough to build a 1-location specialty clinic, but a multi-location. Yeah, multi-location, man, that is incredible. And we're going to get into that, but I want to take a couple steps back here and just kind of hit on some early days in your world. You obviously went to undergrad, went to optometry school. Walk us through a little bit about your journey to becoming an optometrist. Where'd you go to school? And like, when did you decide, hey, this is for me?
Yeah, that's a crazy kind of story. So I was a math and science guy throughout, grade school to high school to I went to this program called TAMS in Texas. So if there's any docs listening from Texas, they may understand what TAMS is. It's a high school program where you go from your sophomore year of high school into a university, and you kind of dedicate to math and science. And I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. And that's what I decided to do. I was an electrical engineering major for 2 years in college when I went to UT Austin. That's what I thought I was going to be. And I remember after my sophomore year, I did a internship with a big oil and gas company, Schlumberger, actually. And not to say pros and cons on Schlumberger or whatever, I'm just saying my personal experience. My interaction with my colleagues during that time and how everything worked, I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And I decided to make a career switch, which was very tough at that time. Number one, I invested 2 years into that, right? And the way that high school program works, you get 2 years of college credit while you're a junior and senior. So you're kind of
Okay.
saving 2 years, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm maybe jeopardizing that, maybe. Also, my parents being Indian, and they're not wanting to uh, be unconventional. All right, right, because in engineering seems like a decent mate. They wanted me to be a doctor right off the bat, and my older brother is a doctor too. So that, as a teenager, you're like, all right, well, you want me to do something, I'm not going to do it. So I was
Yeah.
very medicine. Like I knew right when they said that, I was like, I'm not going to do it. As a 13-year-old. But then I had a real difficult choice, because that decision I made as a young 20-year-old or 18-year-old, I was like, I don't think it's for me. What am I going to do? So what laid ahead of me was practicality. I could still graduate in 2 years if I did go a medical field, because I had the credits for it. So I had a lot of people giving me advice. So one of my best friends was going in the pharmacy route. And he's like, why don't you go this? I was like, all right, well, hey, you're my boy, like maybe I'll do that. And that at that time, not to date myself, but it was a long time ago. And that seemed like, okay, you can make a good living, you can have a good quality of life. Yeah, I don't really care about it, but I'll just enjoy my weekends. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
passion. And my brother, who was the physician, mentioned to me, because he knew I didn't want to go into medicine, because I really didn't have a passion for it. And I also, more importantly, I was still anti my parents of not wanting to do what they wanted me to do. Um, he mentioned optometry, because we both had a close relationship with our optometrist, because we're very highly myopic, so we had to see them very regularly. So
Mm.
we just developed a good relationship with them. And I never thought about that. I was like, okay. And I happened to work at an optometrist while I was in Austin in college, and I was like, okay, I could see this, but it was a very superficial, like, introduction to the profession.
Mm-hmm.
And as a young kid, you do what you do, and you make a split decision, like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I went to optometry, like with nothing else than that. All right, well, I don't do pharmacy, I don't do medicine, I don't want to do blah, blah, blah. I'll just pick this because I decided to. And that could have been horribly wrong of picking your career path, right? And once I started optometry school, I felt so lucky, because I fell in love with it. Like immediately I fell in love with it. And your first year of optometry school, it's a lot of still college based stuff, like a lot of physics, a lot of optics, whatever. Which, lucky for me, because of my background, I was good at that stuff, right? And then we got into clinic clear. I really loved it. And then when I got into my externships, that's when it was like a no brainer. And I feel very lucky, because that decision could have went horribly wrong, right?
No
Like
kidding.
randomly as a young kid, and it could have been something I hated, and that it turned out to something that I absolutely loved. Like, what are the odds of that, right? Like the odds that I love the profession that I picked randomly. And remember, I was just basing on primary care. I had no idea about orthokeratology, scleral lenses, anything about that. I just loved the patient interaction. And to develop into that, I felt very blessed. And that's how I got into optometry.
Wow. It's funny. I talk to a lot of our colleagues, and parental pressure is a huge factor in a lot of the decisions that we made going to professional school. And you went against the grain. You're like, I want to defy it a little bit. You're one of the first where they're like, listen, I was the rebel. But you kind of stuck with, you said you liked science, you liked math, and you made that commitment to optometry, and you realize, well, shoot, we talk about optics, we talk about calculations all the time. But when you were in school, what was it that you really started to love as you kind of peel back the onion? Obviously the patient interaction, but was there anything else that there were some signs that this was just the right pathway for you along that journey?
That's a great question. So when I started out, right, like in college, like I thought I was the numbers guy. I love the
Hmm.
math of it. I love the optics of it. That switched.
No
That
kidding.
completely switched. So what made me fall in love with it was the patient interaction. That's when I knew that this was it. This was the career path for me, because you know when I'm in college and you do the engineering side of it and you see okay, you got to do a lot of math and optics, whatever, but you interact with your colleagues and that's all they're concerned with. And I realized that wasn't for me. And when I saw that interaction when I was working as a senior in college for optometry practice and the patient interaction, that's what got me. That's what really got me. Now, there's pros and cons to patient interaction we can all get into, right?
Yeah.
But as a young kid, like that's what pulled me. Is that is something I could see myself doing for the rest of my life, and being in a corporate position to do numbers all day and dealing with people that, to be honest, that were not socially um, not as competent as I would like. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't see myself with those colleagues of going, hey, let's go out to dinner. Let's go out to whatever. That's a big thing. Like I could go out to dinner with you right now. It'd be fantastic. And I could learn from you. And we could push each other. I didn't get that. And I recognized that even at that age, even as a young 20-year-old. I think I was very lucky to have the opportunity to have a great internship position at an engineering firm that kind of pushed me out of that. Yeah, but it was tough for sure. Like you said, there's a cultural component, and my parents were not excited about my decision of saying, "Hey, I'm going to completely revert of what I'm doing in college, and maybe staying in longer." Well, there's more tuition and stuff, but I had to kind of pay for that. I had to get my own job. Because at that time it was floating because I had that scholarship, right? So now I had to work harder. But I think it was, I didn't know at the time if I was going to fail or not. But I think I knew at the time that it wasn't for me.
I'm glad you listened to yourself though, and you recognize that. I mean, you're a pretty extroverted individual. You are out there. You're speaking to doctors all the time. I always see you at dinners and collaborating with peers. I think you're part of the what is it, the young optometrist group that you're part.
Young Ladies of America. I'm the
Young
Texas
Ladies of
feeder.
America. Yep. So I mean, you have a lot of irons in the fire socially, but also collaboratively in our profession. So as you kind of through school and then you came out, walk me through a little bit of just how that fueled you, just getting involved in some of these different groups and what you've really picked up and learned along the way.
I'm going to give a quick shout out to Joe Deloach, Dr. Joe Deloach. He was the director of the externship site I went to in my fourth year. It was Bridge Builders at the time. It's now called Cedar Springs, I believe. But he was a huge mentor to me, and great doctor. But he was a huge proponent of our profession and saying how important it is to support optometry. And I think that changed a lot in my mentality because I was probably second or third year. I was okay to like, hey, go to work, go home, and that's it. And that interaction with that practice, and there was more than just Joe Deloach, Marcus Gonzalez, Zana Crouch, they were fantastic. They opened my mind of saying there's an importance to supporting the profession. I remember
Mm-hmm.
how great that practice was. I remember thinking, I was like, man, and I was a young kid, I graduated. I was like, oh, I would take a pay cut to work here because they're like they're community clinic, right? That works with the institutions. And I was like, I'll take that pay cut to work here because it's so great. Until you start working and making money. I'm like, yeah, that was probably a smart decision. I didn't do that. No shade to Joe and to Zana, but how that influenced me, it was realizing like how important that is of having the mindset of you have to support the profession and you have to support how you grow as a clinician and grow as how you support other doctors because that's what they were doing. Like they didn't have to do that. They were well off, I'm sure. They didn't have to teach us this level of education, and that was the biggest thing. That was the best education I ever had. I mean, I had 3.5 years at UHCO, which is a great university. I mean, I have some beefs with UHCO, regardless. But it's still a great university. But there was nothing like that 4 to 6 months that I had at Bridge Builders at that time. That impacted me more than anything else. So finding those great mentors to um, teach you not only clinically but give you insight of how to pave your pathway to a successful career. And we differ on things for sure. You have to find your own path, but it gave me a good foundation, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of a sounding board to see what you liked and graduate and go from there. So you graduated, and did you immediately open up cold, or did you start out somewhere? Or did you start in a few different jobs and kind of see what you like, what you didn't like? Like, walk me through that experience.
Yeah, so our fourth year of optometry school, there was about 3 or 4 of us that were really close. One of them being my current partner, and we talked about it then of
Oh,
opening
no
a private
kidding. You
practice.
guys were
And our
ahead of it then.
idea, yeah, I mean, we're still stupid fourth years, right? We didn't know anything, right? But we had the idea, at least a foresight, like, hey, this is what we think we should be doing, and we had a plan of, okay, let's get some experience, and then 5 years out, we'll open a practice, right? And two of them kind of fell out of it, and it was me and my partner that really were really invested. So our plan was, okay, let's work 5 years, get our experience, we'll open up. My partner David Chow, which I mean, he's been fantastic. He's a fantastic practitioner. He does vision therapy and pediatric and TBI, and I'm so grateful to have him. Um, so he was working in New York. I was in San Antonio, which is my first job in a rural part of San Antonio.
You guys were pretty split then. I mean, he was all up in New
Yeah,
York, and you were, oh wow,
yeah. So we just had this. Luckily, we had the foresight. We're like, hey, we're
yeah.
going to do this, but we've got to do this other stuff before, and with this 5 year plan. And I worked it was in Uvalde actually, which has notoriety for issues that I wish it didn't, but it was a great town, and I was grateful for my time there. I worked with Doctor Chip Wood. If
Yep, I
anybody
know
is,
Chip.
yeah, yeah, really great guy. I'm friends to him to this day. I'm grateful for everything that he taught me. And then I was there for a year, and then I transitioned into an OD OMD practice in San Antonio, so a proper San Antonio, and which is great. I loved it. I mean, I got so much experience. I mean, imagine walking into a patient that has retinal detachment, and you're like, no problem. The retina specialist is next door. Like, you're not referring them 30 minutes away. So that idea of having so many specialists together was great, and they let me grow, and it was really really awesome. And there was an optometrist there that was seasoned that helped me out a lot. Michael Orozzo, I got to give him a shout out too. He was fantastic. Got me a lot into dry eye, and I don't know how much ortho he still does, but he still introduced a little bit to me. I just learned a lot, and it was the ideal practice for me. Really, at that time, I was in my 20s, and I was making, to be honest, to be good, pretty good money
Yeah,
at that time. I was 25, 26. I really didn't know too many people at my age that was making that much, because I was doing a lot of procedures. I was learning a lot. I was, LipiFlow just came out. I was doing Procuras. I was just involved with the latest and greatest. So there was the advantage of, I love learning about everything else that's coming out, the cutting edge. I love being on the cutting edge of everything. We had DEP and ERGs before everybody else. We're doing clinical trials. And dry eye was like my thing at that time. And we are really at the cutting edge of that. We had a LipiFlow before any of the universities. And I never thought I would leave that job because I loved it so much, except for the fact that I knew in my heart that I still want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a private practice owner. And my partner said the same thing. And he was still in New York. And then, so he moved back to Houston, which is where we wanted to open our practice. Number one, I'm from Houston. I always wanted to be in Houston. He's not from Houston, but he loved Houston when he was going to school with us. And so he moved back first, and he was working for a while, but he was getting the ball rolling of us opening up a practice. And it got to the point where these meetings were like, I can't do this remote. Like, I got to be there now. Like, we're getting far enough ahead. And that practice knew that eventually that was my goal, and they were okay with accommodating. Like, hey, I get it. Like, you told us when we hired you, you wanted to do this. Um, no hard feelings. So I moved back, and I was doing. And me and my partner both actually were working 7 days a week. And when I work 7 days a week, I don't mean like, oh, like when you're a practice owner, you work 7 days a week as you know, right? No matter what. I mean 7 days a week of clinic.
Mm-hmm.
But we both work, 3 days a week in our own practice, 4 days a week doing relief work to pay the bills because we're not making any money. So we're doing that for 5 years, and COVID hits, and that was tough because we didn't know what to do, and we're passing by, but we're not really making money. And what do we do with staff? What do we do with everything else? So, you know, we decided to take care of our staff. Like, we'll pay them throughout, you know. And once we opened back up, we decided like we're not so comfortable going to other people's practices because we remember that time at COVID. Like, I don't know if you remember, it's really scary. You just don't know. Like, all right, you know what? I don't want to take the risk on their practice. Let's take the risk on our practice, whatever. And so we started doing 2 doctor days. Practice exploded. That was the end of it. Like,
No kidding.
I never thought we were busy enough to have 2 doctor days. And once we did do it, it was, yeah, like we started to explode, and that was the end all be all. So like, no more relief work, no more anything. We just concentrated on our practice, and then oh, we should probably open practice 2, open practice 3, and that's how that happened.
You guys took an idea from fourth year. You guys kind of did your own thing for a while and then stuck to the plan, reconvened, pushed through, hit COVID, pivoted, and it took off from there. But there's something really key here that I'm curious about. How did you guys end up with your specializations? Like, what drew that passion out of both of you? Because you referenced your business partner has more of the VT, TBI. You're more the anterior segment, specialty contacts, dry eye guy. How did you guys identify that? Was that early on in fourth year? Was that where you came back from all of your experiences clinically and you guys kind of put that business plan together? Because I can only imagine it, your clinic has got to be super unique in the marketplace around you. I don't know a lot of clinics that focus on both of those things and are able to operate at that level. That's pretty impressive.
It was early on. That fourth year conversation when we was on optometry school, we kind of knew. We kind of knew. Like, Chow knew he wanted to do VT.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to do specialty contacts. And I'm gonna get a little heat on this, but Ortho K was tough when you're in optometry school, right? And I know a lot of doctors that teach Ortho K back in the day will say like, "Well, no, you had an Ortho K, class or whatever." I'll just say from my experience, and they did. I'm sure they had an Ortho K class. I did not have great experience in learning an Ortho K. Like, I had no idea about it. I thought it was voodoo. Like, I remember graduating, and my first experience with Dr. Wood, he was asking me, he's like, "Hey, do you want to do Ortho K?" I was like, I don't know about it. Like,
You're like, I don't know if I believe in it. Yeah.
it kind of seems kind of weird. Like, it's kind of, and this is now what I do mostly, right? So that was a journey for sure. But I knew I wanted to do specialty contacts. I thought that's where my passion lied. Number one, like, I thought there was, as selfishly as I could say, like, I thought there was money in it. And, as a young kid, you're like, oh, where do I make the most money? You start a business, right? As you do it, like, there's better ways to make money than that. Like, it's a lot of time, effort. It's a lot of hand holding. It's a lot of um, taking those patients on those journeys. And granted, yeah, you can be profitable, but like, if you don't love it, it's not worth the money because I have colleagues that do really well on optical. Dr. Wilto, friend of mine. Okay, he's fantastic, great business owner. He can have a patient come in, buy 2,000 pair of glasses, 15 minutes, and he's great. Like, and he's just so good at it. That's not the same as taking a keratoconus patient that I have to like hold their hand first time we're in contact. I see them 6 times. That's a lot, it's a lot of effort, right? For this, for the same amount of reimbursement. And unfortunately, a lot of this is uh, through through insurances or vision plans. I mean, some of them are private pay. I get it, but um, you have to be invested. And luckily for our team, we're very invested. I think like that's what we like to do, and the fact that we're not great at selling great glasses. We have an optical and everything else, and we have a one of our offices is a very high end optical, and they can do cardies and everything else. But it's not where our skill set lies. Our skill set lies is like we're good at saying, hey, you have a corneal disease. I'm going to make that life better. Yeah, it might suck in the beginning, but let me help you, right? Your kid is going to be a progressive myope. I'm sorry that he's a -4 at 6, but let's not get him to a -10. And it's going to suck for him to wear that orthopedic retainer. But I'm going to hold your hand and go through that. Yeah, that's a lot of work. And, I get in a regular primary care office like that. There's no time for that. And I think that's why we were successful in our in our own local location is that we get a lot of referrals for that because we're willing to take that time, and we're also willing to like, hey, you still need to take care of these kids. Like I'm just doing the ortho case stuff, I'm just doing the keratoconus stuff. You still got to take the retina care. You got still got to do the primary eye.
Yeah, you can't neglect the entire eye health and vision care journey, and so exactly, there's a lot more to it. But yeah, if I remember correctly, so you came out no residency, right? So no specialty contact lens residency to dive, or did you
Yeah,
do a
that's right.
did
Me and my partner both didn't do
neither?
residency.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of Chris Smiley. You know Chris Smiley, who has a massive practice in Columbus, Ohio, and
yeah, yeah.
Chris came out of school at Ohio State, just like dove right into specialty contact lenses and kind of taught himself, and now he's a guru, just like you. But where did you like feel like you were picking up steam with that specialization? Because it's one thing to say I'm going to do it. It's another thing to start taking out loans to buy equipment and to invest in the right tools and technology and education and staff resources, especially when, as you referenced, you guys were kind of splitting time at the primary office and then moonlighting or doing what you could to pay the bills. Like when do you remember when that started to really take off? And
Yeah,
what
I
did you
think
do?
I think it actually, to be honest, it was before we opened our practice. I think that happened before. I remember when I first graduated, and me and my partner both were like super into the stuff we were interested in, right? Like we attend every lecture, we watch every online webinar, everything. Like I remember when I was in San Antonio. Okay, not to hate any San Antonio people here, but there's not much to do there, right? So my days were like I would look forward to. I would come home from work because remember I had an hour commute from Uvalde to San Antonio, right? And I come home and make dinner, pour myself a drink or whatever, and I watch webinars of GPLI, Skittle Lens. Oh, you know what? I don't think Skittle Lens Education Society was at like that much webinars at that time. I think it was all GPLI, but Skittle Lens Society is fantastic. I highly recommend it. And that was like my evening. That was like my entertainment. That's what I would do. And I remember watching it. I was like learning and learning. And then we go to conferences. I was learning and learning. And then I remember like going to a lecture. Because I go to everyone locally. And I was like, yeah, I know that. Like, I already know that. And then when you got to the point, I was like, yeah, I know that. But also, like, there's this, that's not quite accurate. Like, you could do this to improve it. And then I was like, you know what? I probably could also do this lecture. Because when I was a student, I remember watching lectures like, I can't believe. Because I would be nerve wracked about speaking in public, which I'm sure a lot of people are surprised by. But I was like, man, I can't believe you would be that confident that you could lecture on a topic. Like how much of an expert that you are that you can actually talk about that. So once I got more experience and I was like, okay, yeah, I understand that. I got that. Then I was like, yeah, I already do that. And then was like, wait a minute. There's more to it. That's when I started to realize that I could probably do a lecture on my own. And also, to be honest, it was from feedback from people where I was like, where I was already just talking to like other doctors, where they're like,
Yeah.
you should probably talk about that.
No kidding. So you developed a lot of that, and then you guys put together this business plan and you started to roll it out, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
Well, no, that happened much later. So the business plan was initially to have a practice that was focused towards a specialty care, but we still had to take primary care. But
Hmm.
our free time was to go visit practices. We're like, hey, we're here. If you have this issue of vision therapy was easy because nobody wants to do vision therapy, right? Especially at that time.
I don't have any vision therapy, in my
Uh,
clinic. Yeah, it's tough
I'm
to it's
so
tough to do.
blessed. I'm so blessed to have Dr. Chow. I mean, he's great because I know he loves it and he is really at the forefront of what's going on with it. So I'm really blessed to have him. At that time, it wasn't like super mainstream to do scleral lenses in ortho K. It's gotten better now, but they were just happy to like, hey, all right. Well, I mean, I can't do it, so we'll be happy to. And I was like, listen, I don't want to take over primary care. I want them to like let me get you to a point where they're good, and then you can go
Send
back.
them back. Yeah.
And we're very very good about sending the referral letters. But I was just very good about communicating, and we just hit the pavestone, and we really just support our community. I think that was the biggest thing. Like we were genuine in that we want you guys to do well too. Like when Houston had a really bad stride of where we got a lot of break-ins,
Oh
and
no.
and that's happened multiple times. And we would support them like, hey, here's a fund for the community. We're donating to the community this so that you guys are okay. Um, so I think that showed that we're not just here for the referrals. We really want to help your patients. We want them to go back to you, but we also want to help our optometric community.
Well, what's nice about what you guys did too, if you guys were working all around you, you're able to take those experiences and what you liked and what you didn't like and continue to build out your clinic to make it to what it is today. So COVID hits, that probably was the single most challenging time for you. But if you took COVID aside, what would you say has been the most challenging part of this journey to get to where you are today?
So one thing I like to tell people who are just starting a cold start private practice, because if you go on these platforms, you see all these great success stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 year I do 1 million, 1 year I do 2 million, whatever, and that seems like the standard. And like nobody doesn't do that, doesn't post, right? Like nobody says like, oh, 1 year and I'm in debt. Um, let us know. Like I think most people will say that we're a successful practice, but it took a long time. And my experience was when we first call started, every 6 months, I would go to my partner, and because we're self funding, because we're not making any money, we had to put money in ourselves. And I would ask him, so how many more months till we go broke? That was probably the first year, 2 years of how that went. Every 6 months is like, all right, because we're just feeding the practice with our own money. How much time do we have till we go broke and realize this is not going to happen anymore? That was a real thing. Now we're a multi-million dollar practice now, obviously, but at that time, that's how it started. And I think it's important for people to hear that. Like, we were on the brink of being out, of giving up. We were on the brink of it. And we just fought and we got past it. And it's important to hear that because when you start, I'm almost about to cry to even talk about those, but about those times, it's hard with social media and everything else that you think like, oh, it's just immediate, like you're a millionaire. Like no, like some practices don't. And I think of myself as an average practice. It took us a while to be profitable, and obviously we got better as we got profitable because of everything else we do. But I have a lot of colleagues that did really well very early, and I'm so happy for them. That's fantastic. I don't want to have other private practice owners to think like that's the norm. Like, no, like for whatever they did, that's great. There may be an outlier, but you can also be great 5 years later. You know, like it might take time. So I would say as someone who's now doing okay, but I wasn't one of the people that did great in year one, year two, or year three, or year four. Year four and a half, year five, we probably did okay, and now we're at the level that we're at. But it took time, and that's okay. And that's probably a reality that you have to be okay with. You have to be okay with going into it. This I was having a conversation with a practice owner recently of going into private practice. So when I was working at OD OMD practice in San Antonio, when I said I was making really great money,
Mm-hmm.
this is back in got to be 2015. Back then, okay, I was making like $300,000 a year. That's a lot back then. A lot. Like, I couldn't remember a person that made that much at that time, and because I was
Yeah, it's
reimbursed properly and I
fantastic.
was doing all these years, right? Like, yeah, I was like, man, I'm banking, I'm going crazy, right? And at that time, even at that moment, and I was still paying my student loans, but I was like, I still wanted to open my private practice. So imagine going from making $3,000 a year, where I could pretty much pay for everything that I needed to do and live a very good life at what is that, 25 maybe? I say, okay, I'm gonna open a practice with a partner. I go from that to move to Houston, live at my parents' house, and I have no money, and I was okay with that. So that's why I tell people going into it, like, you have to be okay with making less to have that autonomy. Because I could still, the thing I didn't have was like, hey, I want to make a decision change. I want to make this equipment purchase. I want to do this. I want to do that. I don't have any of that. I want to make a change tomorrow. Like, I want to buy a piece of equipment. I'll do it tomorrow. Okay. And eventually, maybe, and probably by year three, probably making like 150 ish. And this is where I tell people where it was a difference. I was okay making 150 instead of 300 because of what the autonomy I had in my practice. That's when I knew it was right for me. Like, to give that up. Like, I can practice the way that I want to. I can do what I want. I can have the hours that I want. I can do whatever I need to do and make that much less. That shows that I'm a true private practice owner. Now, don't get me wrong. You shouldn't stay at that level, right? Like, you always
You want to keep
expand.
growing. Yeah, you want to keep growing.
Yeah, but when I thought internally that I was okay with that decision, I was like, yep, this is for me. But if you're not okay with that, like you're like, I got to, your situation may be different. I have to support different people, or like, my ideals don't fall with that. Okay, great. That's okay. Like, not everybody's a practice owner, but I thought that was a good litmus test of seeing if I was or not. I was okay. I was okay at that time to accept that for the rest of my life because I practiced the way that I wanted. I run the business that I wanted. Now, obviously, it's changed, and I make more than what I did back then. But that not everybody gets to that. But that's something you got to think about when you get into ownership, and all the headaches that go into it, right?
Well, I commend you for first and foremost sharing that. It's a vulnerable thing to go through, and as you referenced, going to sleep at night being like, am I going to be able to pay the bills at the end of the month or throughout the tomorrow? And just kind of some of the pain and suffering that you go through, and even just questioning your decision making to keep powering through and pushing forward. But obviously you guys did. You guys rallied, you continued to grind through, and now you're at where you're at today. What are some of the greatest patient interactions that you've had over the last few years as you've taken this practice from 1 to 3 locations, and you're constantly delivering? I mean, I feel like when you fit a sclera on somebody, or if you fit a specialty contact lens on somebody, you take them from, I can't see a doggone thing, I have keratoconus, to, wow, I'm seeing 20/20. I mean, that is just that right there and the goodwill that you're doing in your community. I know it's profitable as well when you get really good at it and you're an expert, but you took a lot of time, energy, and effort to get there. But what are some of those interactions that kind of hit home that you remember over the last couple of years?
Surprisingly enough, the scleros aren't the biggest one.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of them take it for granted. Yeah.
By
There
the
are
time they
good.
find you, right? By the time they find you and they know you're an expert, they've probably already been through a number of different people, right? And they're like, I
No,
got to go to this guy now.
no. If there's somebody that's been through a few doctors and then get to me, they're pretty grateful. Um, it's usually the first times, and it's still tough. For like, I, you're 2250 and now you're 2020, and I know it's tough to put it on, but like, goddamn, you know.
Yeah. You're like, I got you so much better.
So it still frustrates me, but I gotten better. To be honest, only the last year. Like it still frustrated me. Um, but some of them, when they are appreciative, it's great because you change their life.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, some patients don't appreciate it, and you just got to deal with it. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I would say the kids with Ortho K and the parents with Ortho K. That's probably the happiest. Like I just had one today where I had a picture with this kid today. It's been a year we've been dealing with him, and he just never could put the retainers on, and just delayed appointment, doctor, delayed appointment. Can you put him on? Can you not? And he finally put him on, and so he's wearing for a month now straight, fully corrected, doing great. I mean, seeing better than even with glasses, and to see that, that's a hard emotion to eclipse. That was great. Like we took a picture. So my staff is really great with testimonials and everything. So they're like
Mm-hmm.
giving, like we have these Ortho K bags. We're giving all these treats. I told them like, hey, if you get to do it, you get this Amazon gift card. So he was excited about that. And our power was out. Remember, I told you our power.
No, that's right.
We were shooting the shit before earlier, and I told you like today in clinic was crazy because the power went out. And power was out while he was there, like at the end of his appointment. And I said, hey, my office manager came easy. She's going to get you that Amazon gift card as I promised. She's taking pictures of them because they always do a really good job with that. And I know I was at the front because I couldn't do any more patient care. And I was like, hey, you want to take a picture? Take a picture with me? He was excited. Oh man, it was great. It was. I mean, that's a. I mean, I the keratoconus patients do appreciate it, and it's great, and they're usually adults. But man, those kids, man, that's a tough one to beat. That's
That
really a tough one to beat.
that's pretty incredible, and yeah, especially when you're man. I mean, you're big into myopia management and Ortho K together, the combination, and just being able to see the look on that kid's face after, as you reference, a year of struggling to do this. Mom and dad stay committed to the process. A lot of parents would give up. I mean,
And he was a kid that was probably told that he couldn't do ortho okay because you've seen my posts, and for the audience, they might not know. I do a lot of like high RX cases, right? So like he was probably minus 575, minus two sil, like one of these cases where you can't go to traditional orthopedic designs, right? And they found us on social media or something I posted on, who knows? And to see that was an option, mom was excited, and then to get to the frustration of where I was excited that we could do it because I knew I could do it design wise, that he couldn't do it as a kid, and it took a year to finally get him. It was great. I mean, the first thing I did was go get him a hug. I mean, I'm tearing up, like I said, just talking about it. I mean, it was just today, and it was so great to see how he could function and how happy he was, and to know that. I mean, we gotta watch it. I don't know yet. I mean, we'll watch it in a year when his actual length is. But I'm given the data that I have clinically, I'm sure it's going to be great. But it was a real win. That you know, imagine having a sucky day and you deal with that. Like that's all. That's pretty awesome.
no, I mean that right there is why you keep doing what you're doing and excelling with what you're doing. Speaking of that, I want to be sensitive of your time. So
No, yeah,
What's
I'm good. Take your time.
yeah, no, but I mean, I'll have a couple more questions and then we'll wrap things up for you. But what's next on the docket for you, personally and professionally? Obviously, personally, you now have a newborn in the house. You're gonna be a busy dad, juggling all that you're juggling. Um, but what's next as you continue to look at your career and growth trajectory?
Yeah, I thought about that for the last probably 18 months. I don't know, which is scary because I don't know.
It's okay.
Uh, my passions lie, I think, a lot in ortho K, a lot in specialty contacts. I love helping other doctors as I've done it more. So maybe there's an avenue for that. Um, I think I will probably, because I still go to clinic, 5 days a week, but not that many hours. But I still go to clinic 5 days a week. So there might be an opportunity where I don't be in clinic that much, and I spread awareness about the things that I'm passionate about, and then how I can help other doctors. I think there's something to that because there's a lot of me where I have a passion to spread a message. And I'm like, well, I'm in clinic all day, you
It's
know?
hard to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And but I don't want to take away from my patients either. But I've slowly decreased that time over the years, and I think that's something that would motivate me. Um, but to be honest, I don't know. I just know that I do have a passion for scleral lenses, especially contact lenses, ortho K, educating the public, educating doctors to do better at it. Whether you refer to me or not, there's a lack of the amount of doctors that are doing this stuff. And if I could just not get the question of why I not heard this before, that would be great. That would be great.
Well, I think you're the man for the job, and I can tell you just based on the culmination of experience that you have built up to this point in your career, and now talking with, I don't know, newer graduates 0 to 5 years out, you are in the one of the hottest subspecialties in optometry, and I only see that continuing to excel and grow. And so I believe there is a huge opportunity for you not only to educate our peers, but the general public, and whatever that turns into, I'm excited for it. Well, all that being said, I want to give you the opportunity just to kind of wrap a bow around the conversation and just leave us with some final thoughts on your journey and what's brought you to this point. And for those listening, maybe even a little bit of motivation on powering through like you had to do, you and your business partner did during some of those tough early years in cold start private practice.
I would say if you have a vision and a passion, those are the two biggest things. If you're, I know this sounds stupid because I'm also monetarily incentivized, obviously, because I want to make money as a business owner. But if that's your primary motivation, it's going to be tough. Like if your passion doesn't drive that, it's going to be really tough to survive. Um, Number two, I think mentorship is very important, and I think I've had a lot of help from a lot of great doctors. And to be honest, Ryan, I mean, we talk here, and I get a lot of motivation from you too. I think you should reach out to your colleagues. I think that's not utilized enough for whatever reason. We refer to OMDs and other practice. Like, why not just talk to your optometrist, even if it's just for a conversation of like getting ideas on. If you're okay with it, I can share all my information. Like I really I'm a proponent of contact me if you have a question, if you have an idea of whatever it is. When I do lectures, I give all my personal info to my doctors. I'm assuming this podcast goes to mostly optometrists, right? And you could probably share this afterwards, but my Instagram is at AnithP23. DM me, great. Ask me a question. Like I, I look forward to those kind of things because I think it's so important for a profession. That's probably how most people contact me on IG nowadays, given the times, whatever. My email, you can share this, dr.pillai@evolutioneyecare.com. Feel free to email me. I give my cell phone out. It's 832-289-6301. I'm from Houston. It's like a Mike Jones kind of line. If anybody gets that, that reference. But my point is, I want to be accessible. And I want to be accessible because the people that helped me grow were accessible. And there's nothing that I don't want to share. I think if you guys can be great at myopia control and ortho K and scleral lenses, fantastic. And if you need to refer, great. There's some doctors that say like, listen, I'm great at IPL and dry eye and whatever, and I'm not focusing on that, but I want to refer, great, fantastic. But acknowledge that. And if you just want to learn about it, lean into your OD community. I think that's something we're lacking. So hopefully, Ryan, with this platform, you can share that. Number three, we didn't really talk about this. I'm not a board member of our state optometric association or anything else. I don't know if you are. I think that's important to support them. Like, this is what I consider malpractice insurance. So if you're not supporting your state association, I think it's important. Like, imagine you couldn't practice tomorrow. It's not because your insurance dropped you. It's because of what happened legislatively. And I'm not a big political guy. I don't care how you vote, but support the people in optometry that are trying to protect your privileges, because that could go away pretty quickly. Like, what I've learned from talking to people that are in Texas, like, we're very close. Like, they're fighting very hard not only to promote of what we can do, hopefully further, just to keep what we have. And if you look at your percentages of how many doctors don't support their state optometrics associations, I think that's scary, and I think that's fortunately not something that's talked about a lot. So I hope you don't mind, Ryan, that I kind of brought that in.
I don't mind at all. And the reality is, we are a legislative profession. We have to play offense and defense, and we need people on both sides of the ball. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. And so I couldn't agree more with you. I will also say that this is a podcast first, somebody dropping their cell on it. I'm all for it. And I love how accessible you are. I'm just grateful you took the time, especially with all that you have going on in your life, to just share your story, share some inspiration, and be an advocate and a mentor for the profession and for our colleagues. That's it for today's episode, everybody. If you like this episode, definitely share it out, like, subscribe, follow Anith on all forms of social, and reach out to him, and he'll give you some good nuggets. But stay tuned for my next podcast, where we can reflect and grow stronger together.